What's up everyone, it's ENDYMION, and oh boy, here we go again. The X-Men 97 Revival series is coming in 2024, and Disney is promoting it, citing it'll be one of their flagship series for their streaming service this year. And of course, there's a lot of nonsense surrounding it, from the person overseeing it losing the plot of what the X-Men are about to begin with, to one of its writers admitting they are going fully in when it comes to identity politics, and Disney is being sued for racist practices. So what the hell is happening, you're probably asking? Well, Disney is reviving the beloved X-Men cartoon from the 90s with a new series that follows that one. If you were born in the 90s like I was, you likely remember this show and probably loved it. As soon as Disney announced it would be returning with a new creative team following the adventures of the X-Men, myself and many others immediately started to brace for impact. Because we already knew this would mean disaster for sure. And while I did try to stay hopeful, it turns out my fears were made true. Let's start with that parkplace.com with their article titled, X-Men 97 showrunner confirmed show embraced woke casting. This show is being overseen by Beau DeMayo. If the name sounds familiar, it's because this is the same guy who ousted The Witcher Netflix writing staff a year ago when he said the creative team over there hated The Witcher. And he promised when bringing the X-Men back in this new series that you'd have to be a fan first in order to work on it. Then of course, Beau lost all the goodwill he gained when he decided to immediately say the reason he wants to do X-Men is because he gets to self-insert his politics into it. So basically, Beau became the very thing he blasted when it came to the Witcher Netflix writers and proved that whether he was at Netflix or Disney, he embraces the same nonsense that they do, which is to take something beloved with an established fan base and then rot it from the inside out with enough rainbows to make you vomit. A bunch of the characters from the original cartoon are also not being voiced by their original voice actors. The reason, according to Beau DeMayo, is he wanted every character to be voiced by someone who was ethnically the same as the character in real life. As DeMayo puts it, it was done for authentic representation, or as I like to call it, stereotypical type casting. I'm sick of this nonsense where people can only voice characters they look or identify as in real life. Because what the hell is the point of voice acting if you need to look like the character? Isn't the entire idea to use your voice to bring life to a character? What does it matter what's between your legs or what color your skin is as long as the person doing it is great at it? It's like Kratos in God of War. The dude is a Greek warrior whose skin is marked ash white by the ashes of his dead family. He's a white guy, yet he's voiced by a black guy. It's fine because the actor does a good job playing him, yet here it's a big no-no because like always, activists only see people for surface level qualities and that's it. I hate it here fellas, but it gets worse. DeMayo said during Marvel's X-Men celebration for the 60th anniversary, and I quote, I came up with a pitch and pitched it to Kevin Feige, and you know him and Brad Winderbaum could not have been more supportive and also just encouraging to make sure we got it right. I think one of my favorite parts was like they were truly interested in like what my experience as a black gay man was and how it was going to inform the story we were telling. And that to them was like, that is how we're going to make this authentic. Because really what you're talking about with X-Men, I don't care what your religion, your nationality, your sex, your gender, you walk into a room full of people and you've gone, oh my gosh, there is no one in here like me. And I think that is ultimately what X-Men is trying to get at. And so then I went into the desert for about 2 weeks, came up with the entire first season, and then came back and you know we got Eric and Julia Lewald and Larry Houston to come aboard and be like, am I screwing this up? Such amazing creative partners, parents I call them, just moral and creative support. And then we've just assembled a great team of really amazing directors and artists and storyboard artists and writers to just get this right and really drill down to what I think the X-Men's always going to be about, which is just, you know, we talk a lot about the dream is social acceptance and it's social justice. It is, but I think that can sometimes make certain people feel alienated, and for me it's always going to come down to, I think, the X-Men, and we're going to try to do with this series is talking about the power of empathy and how it can kind of heal these wounds that turn people against each other. That things like racism and bigotry don't just exist, there's a reason behind it that empathy can kind of help us connect and build those bridges where we can actually say, hey, we are all different, but we have these little things that can still connect us, end quote. I can see where Beau is coming from, but ultimately the reason why the X-Men are the way they are is far less complicated than what he's saying here. The true reason is simply because Stan Lee, who created the entire team, was getting annoyed with coming up with origin stories for new characters. So he took the coward's way out, as Stan Lee put it in an interview, to just say they're mutants and compare the X-Men to the concept of how animals can be born with extra limbs or whatever, and you don't need to explain why Wolverine can heal or Cyclops can shoot lasers or anything else. It's simply that they have the X gene, they're born with it now, and let's move on and get to the story. But of course, like always, the original creator's intent and reasoning gets muddled in the decades since. And now the X-Men, in the eyes of people like Beau DeMayo, are a personification of their sexuality and their identity, when in reality the X-Men are just a bunch of mutants with cool powers wearing spandex doing stuff together. But like always, these sorts of creators and writers have to self-insert their own ideas and identity into the things they make, so that's why X-Men 97 is what it is. And I personally never looked at the X-Men as this group of diversity or something, I simply just saw them as people myself. I didn't care that Cyclops was white, Storm was black, or Jubilee was Asian. They were surface level qualities beyond their actual character and personality. Cyclops was always the good Boy Scout leader who kinda turns into a Magneto-like character later in the comics, which is its own controversy, and then Storm has also led the X-Men, and I think that's fine because Storm is badass. I've said it many times on this channel that Storm is one of my favorite X-Men ever since I was a wee little baby boy collecting the cards out of my convenience store gumball machines. Even then, I never saw Storm for her skin color, she just looked cool and could control the weather, which is awesome. But of course, you have characters like Rogue, which these creators now confirm will be an allegory for gay representation. According to Lenore Zan, who voiced Rogue back in the 90s and will return to play the character again, they said, "A lot of folks can relate to that, to her wanting to be loved, wanting to belong, wanting to be touched, and not being accepted for who they are. There's a lot of LGBTQ folks who tell me that they can really relate to her because of the same reasons. Rogue really embodies that because she always seems to be struggling with accepting herself for who she is, warts and all." But I think pigeonholing Rogue to be a beacon for LGBTQ representation is a disservice to the character. Because it's not only gay people who struggle with not feeling loved or wanted in life, it's a universal fear for all human beings that they want to be accepted and loved for who they are. But by pushing Rogue to only be an allegory for that just confirms that this is where the show's priorities lie, which is to represent the LGBTQ crowd through her while sweeping the vast majority of the audience under the rug for no other reason than to pander. And the push for this identity political angle doesn't stop there, since apparently, according to Bounding Into Comics and other sites, the X-Men Morph will now be non-binary as well in this series. Morph, of course, can transform themselves into others, sort of like Mystique. Which honestly, from the get-go, makes Morph's existence kind of redundant, since why do we need two mutants that basically do the same thing? But of course, the reason for this is simply because it aligns politically with what these writers and creators want for their show and the ideas that they're pushing. DeMayo states that Morph will be a lighter take on the character who is non-binary and has an interesting buddy relationship with Wolverine. It should be stated that while Morph could obviously transform into a woman or anyone else, he always reverted back to his original form, which was of course a man. But now, since it's 2024, that isn't good enough for activists, so naturally Morph is now non-binary, even though DeMayo refers to Morph using he/him pronouns. Which, if Morph was non-binary, wouldn't it be they/them instead? You see what I mean? Even they can't get it right, and they're the ones who are doing it. DeMayo even said during a stream that his ultimate goal with X-Men 97 is to make the series and the entire team an allegory for activism. He said, "To just get this right and really drill down to what I think the X-Men's always going to be about, which is just, we talk a lot about the dream is social acceptance and is social justice." But again, like I said, Stan Lee never intended for the X-Men to be these social justice warriors with a hint of communism at their hearts like DeMayo will make them. But like always, a great creator like Stan Lee is yet again having his life's work being transformed and pushed to fit new ideals by people who never had a hand in making these things popular to begin with. And that's something I always notice when it comes to legacy properties being appropriated in the modern day. It's that these oftentimes eye-rolling controversial decisions that nobody likes when it comes to any legacy property are almost always pushed and injected by people who didn't create the legacy property to begin with. Like with Witcher being completely gutted and retrofitted by Netflix to the point that the creator of Witcher denounced the series or this X-Men revival, not to mention how things like Spider-Man have been ruined by Insomniac with their pandering storytelling in the video games. All of these problems stem from people who didn't make these things originally. is just a bunch of people who took something that was already popular and refused to give it the respect it deserves. And instead they just see it as a convenient pedestal for them to start monologuing on, and I find that very disappointing and oftentimes pathetic. All fans wanted from the X-Men 97 revival series was more of what made the original show so beloved. But of course, it's 2024 and Disney now owns Marvel, so naturally none of this is going to be like what we remember. Just look at the female characters too. Gone are their hips or anything making them resemble their feminine figures that they had in the original series. Rogue especially has gone from the bodacious Southern Belle to the uniboob long back skinny twig look that is popular amongst activist creators today. The Western mind virus push for averting the male gaze at any cost by making every female character a gender-ambiguous human being is yet again very alive here too. Rogue is no longer Rogue anymore, she looks more like a skinny man wearing a Rogue wig than anything else. But this is not surprising considering this is a status quo for Western media these days. It just makes me sad that they took who was arguably the best looking X-Men in Rogue and they stole her ass, dude. Her ass is gone. My beloved Rogue has been massacred, fellas, and I'm not taking it well. Because I know I'm not in the minority where I want to see attractive women in my media. I don't want to see long back, flat-assed revisions. The show already seems to be removing what makes the X-Men. And now you're also going to make my eyes suffer with no-ass version Rogue? Bo DeMayo and his team are going out of their way, it seems, to ensure their show doesn't get another season. And frankly, based on what I'm seeing, I wouldn't be surprised if this revival ends up dying before it's given a chance at really living again. And if everything I just stated wasn't enough to really kill the series, we got one of the writers of this X-Men show just going full scorched earth. This brings me to Charlie Feldman, who apparently either blocked me already or has protected their account on Twitter. Regardless, don't harass Charlie based on these tweets because they seem a little cuckoo anyway. Charlie has tweeted stuff like, "If you're blissfully unaware, white rage is trending because folk are trying to keep critical race theory from being taught. A totally normal and chill desire, no rage there, just daisies and white supremacy. It's to a point where every time I pass a 20-something lone white male, I feel the need to ask them to please not shoot people just in case. Fair, destroy white supremacy." And then this one especially is yikes, where Charlie says, "Gender to me is similar to religion. You may grow up with it and it can give guidance, community, identity, and perspective. Some may find peace within its framework, but some just don't need it. And the more you hold up either as an absolute truth, the more you limit your world." How the hell is gender like religion? What? Your gender is something you're born with inherently. Religion is a concept that is an idea made by millions of people's beliefs all combined into one. These two things have nothing in common, but you see what I mean? This person is writing your X-Men 97 reboot series and they really hate white people, even though of course if you look at a photo of Charlie, surprise, of course they're a liberal white woman themselves. She's also said to straight up kill white supremacy and that she hates fascists. People like Charlie are the end goal evolution of schools today. They want everybody to be like Charlie because then they're easily controllable, follow the rules, and will parrot whatever is being considered politically correct at the time. And I guarantee you Charlie has at some point said thoughts and prayers unironically and likely thinks migrants should be able to invade people's homes, especially white homes, and thinks the X-Men are also an allegory for gender too. Oh boy, it gets worse too because Charlie is also confirmed to be the supervising producer on the entirety of X-Men 97, which means nothing gets a go-ahead without her say-so. Well, that's not looking good. But it somehow gets even worse as well. A few videos back, I did one about the GLAAD report on gaming, which stands for Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. And they said in their report that they demand modern gaming studios promote people who identify as LGBT into positions of power for no other reason than because they are LGBTQ. So yes, they want people hired on sexuality and not experience, and Charlie is echoing those same ideas as well, where they tweeted this. "Hi, I'm a staffed writer in animation. While I'm not currently in a hiring position, I soon will be. And many who follow me already are. If you below, I will retweet black folk looking for work or who want to break in. I promise to make this a more regular post going forward. While I can't read scripts right now, I will also start to make that available. If there's something anyone who isn't white, heterosexual, cisgender is interested in. This is not something many find helpful or needed right now, but I will offer it to those who are looking for that soon." And notice that this was tweeted in June 2020 during lockdown, so these tweets were likely coinciding with the conceptual creation of the X-Men 97 revival series. So Charlie, who again I'll remind you is a producer on the show that's overseeing the writing and hiring on it, makes it very clear that she will hire people as long as they are not white, straight men. But she will go out of her way to hire black people exclusively into roles simply because their skin is black. This is racist in every way humanly possible. Yet of course, Disney will not fire her because her politics align with their own. If anything else I've stated in this video hasn't already convinced you how cooked this show is gonna be, I feel as if this is the final straw. Charlie, along with DeMeo, who is also black, are essentially taking a beloved series made in the 90s and retrofitting it and assuming the vision they want to see, which is clearly a very anti-white straight man future where people are hired for simply their identity and gender alone. And the entire mass exodus of white male writers, creators, and workers are excommunicated for something they can't control. This is not only baffling but racist, especially considering the X-Men were created originally by a team of white men, as were pretty much every other legacy property, from Spider-Man to Batman and more. These properties are being hijacked quite literally in front of your eyes by woke activists and sane people, and they're forcing these properties to remove anyone they don't politically agree with or they hate simply because of the color of their skin. There is no way I'm watching X-Men 97 simply on the basis of principle, and I implore you should likely do the same. I can't believe that Disney has stooped to such levels that they're actually hiring people who are openly racist like this. Charlie Feldman is an insanely racist creator who nobody should support due to how hateful their views are. For someone being hired to work on a beloved property like X-Men, which has many white characters in it already, to be this openly hateful towards people is inexcusable. And I won't be supporting the show. I will of course keep you informed on it, however. And I will report further if Charlie decides to get more racist and hateful than she already is. I'm just amazed how backwards our society is that people like this are encouraged to behave this way. Thankfully, according to this article from that Park Place, the EEOC, or Equal Employment Opportunities Commission, is filing a lawsuit against Disney for their hiring practices promoting what the EEOC views as racial discrimination. And according to documents, the EEOC is providing Disney has been ousted for hiring people who are not white on purpose, and are even giving grants to encourage non-white applicants to work for them. As much as $25,000 per applicant is being waved in their face to join Disney so they can increase their ESG basically. This report specifies that Disney is violating the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which states that no one should be attacked or not hired based on the color of their skin. As the president of America First Legal, who's a part of this lawsuit, Stephen Miller, says, "It is sad and tragic that a company whose name was once synonymous with wholesome and charming childhood fantasies is now dedicated to spreading divisive bigotry. We urge Disney to cease and desist its unlawful and destructive conduct at once." And according to Disney, who pushed back against this, they believe it's within their right as a company to hire people based on diversity quotas and sexual identity over that of work experience and actual talent. But this, of course, goes against the Civil Rights Act's entire purpose and proves that Disney is going against the laws that America was founded on in order to push their agenda regardless. And who are exactly Disney pushing to hire? According to the report, this includes groups like women, AAPI, Black, AA, Indigenous, Native, Hispanic, Latinx, Latine, MENA, SWANA, LGBTQIA+, disability, identifying religiously marginalized people. I'm going to be honest with you fellas, these sound like made-up terms. Just one second, I'm going to look up what these mean. So apparently AAPI is Asian Pacific American people. MENA is Middle East and North African people. SWANA is Southwest Asian and North African people again. So they get double honors here, I guess, and the rest is pretty self-explanatory. So if these lawyers want to screw over Disney big time, it would be a shame if somebody were to tell them about Charlie Feldman and how they're going out of their way to not hire white people when it comes to X-Men 97. And it would be a real shame if America First Legal didn't hear about Charlie Feldman and looks like this is their official website, and oops, I clicked something and here it says Center for Legal Equality. Oh, you can share your story. Well, that would be pretty interesting if some people watching this maybe sent a little notice to America First Legal, letting them know what Disney is doing there. I'm just saying, this is totally not a coincidence, just thinking out loud. So there you have it fellas, your X-Men 97 show is cooked, the producer-writer is insanely openly racist, and Disney is trying to fight back against very evidently racially profiling their employees and would-be applicants. Just another day for Disney, am I right? So what do you think about all this? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it as well. Thanks to my patrons, and have a wonderful day. We all deserve so much better than what Disney is doing here, and I'll see you in the next one.